Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Taylor and this is Benter's Bookshelf. Happy middle grade March! I love middle grade books so much. I do have a middle grade reading daughter, so I have lots of recommendations here for you, both ones that I've read and ones that she's read. So without further ado, let's get into these awesome middle grade books. Okay, I'm going to start with the ones that I own physically. So the first one here is The Night Animals by Sarah Ann Jux. First off, let's talk about this cover. The foiling is great. The multicolored specks here and the fox against the dark is just absolutely stunning. So I will say that this book deals with grief. I think it deals with grief in a very approachable way for the middle grade audience, readers ages 8 to 12, but it does deal with grief, so know that going in. So this book is about our main character, Nora, and she is basically grieving her mom, but her mom is not dead. Her mom deals with very extreme PTSD as a result of being an EMT for a very long time. So there are lots of times where her mom is just completely unreachable for Nora. She isn't able to take care of herself, let alone take care of Nora. And Nora is kind of the weird kid at school because of it. She doesn't really have a lot of friends. So we are following her journey of grieving the mom that she wishes she had, as well as her journey of acceptance for who she is herself and acceptance for her mom's condition. Now this is done through the help of some magical animals that come to her, fox being one of them, and they kind of help guide her in certain situations. She makes a really good friend out of it, and it is just a very heartwarming story of acceptance and grief and really growing up at an age when you really shouldn't have to. The next one I have is The World Between Blinks. This is by Amy Kaufman and Ryan Groden. So this is a kind of portal fantasy adventure story. So our main characters, Jake and Marisol, are kind of like whisked away to this alternate dimension when they go through the lighthouse. Now this dimension is the land of the lost, so this is where everything lost goes. So as you can see, like on the cover, you've got like the Loch Ness Monster and a dodo bird and missing ships and submarines. You also have lost people from history, like Amelia Earhart makes an appearance. It is very much adventure, and there's some mystery involved to it. There is history involved. I recommend this one for those of us who loved the Magic Treehouse series growing up. This is basically Magic Treehouse, but for a slightly older audience, more for the like 10 to 12-year-old range kids, versus like the beginner chapter book readers that the Magic Treehouse is aimed for. Next, we have The Book Scavenger, and this is by Jennifer Chambliss Bertman. And this is a perfect book for those kids who love video games. This is following our main character, Emily, and her family has just moved to the hometown of the game maker, Garrison Griswold. So Garrison Griswold has made the book scavenger game, where he hides books around the city and leaves clues and puzzles to help people find them. And the people who find the most books win. But now Griswold has been attacked, and it is kind of throwing the game into chaos, and Emily is trying to figure out what has happened while also continuing to play the game with the hopes of winning. It is mysterious, it is adventurous, it is so fun, it is such a fast-paced book, and I believe there are 3 books in this series, and I honestly cannot wait to read the other 2. Next up, we have a book from my favorite author, and while I am, of course, recommending this book, I'm really recommending any of her books. So the author is Lindsay Curry, and this book is Scritch Scratch. This is the first Lindsay Curry book that I read, and I absolutely devoured it. As you all know, I love spooky middle grade books, and that is exactly what this is. So Scritch Scratch is set in Chicago, and our main character, Claire, fancies herself a scientist. Now, her father runs this paranormal tour of Chicago utilizing a bus. And so people pay money for tickets to go on this bus ride around the city and get told basically all of the ghost stories. While working on one of the tours, Claire basically gets herself a tag-along in the form of a little ghost boy. And she is haunted by him and trying to figure out what he wants and what happened to him and who he is. And it all is super, super spooky. Like, there is not a chapter in here that doesn't have some sort of spooky element going on. I highly recommend all of Lindsay Curry's books. They are the epitome of spooky middle grade, and they all are set in the Chicago region, which I really enjoy. And they do have, at least this one has some real life historical element woven into it, which I thoroughly enjoyed. Next up is a middle grade graphic novel, and that is Pilu of the Woods. This is so, so cute. So we have gorgeous illustrations in a really pretty color palette. And it's basically all about friendship and acceptance of your family as they are. So we are following our main character, whose name I cannot remember right now, I'm looking. Our main character, Willow. Now, Willow lives with their older sister because their parents are no longer around. Now, while in the woods one day, Willow comes across this scared, I want to say girl, but she's kind of like a fairy almost, and she is lost. She's trying to find her way back to her family, and Willow and the dog Linnea help her do so. It is so charming, it is so heartwarming, and it's short, so it is a really fast read. You could read this in a day. Next up, we have Fortunately the Milk by Neil Gaiman. So this is a short, wacky kind of book. It is adventurous and fantastical, and it's following this father who went to get milk and was gone for a long time. And when he came back, his kids were like, "What's up, dude? What happened?" And he spins this super crazy story about aliens and different animals, and it is just so much fun. It is super quick, and there are illustrations throughout the book, It is just one of those reads that you pick up when you just need to laugh, because that is all you will do with this book, is you will laugh. Next, we have another spooky middle grade that I was lucky enough to have the e-arc of. It is published at this point, and I have seen quite a few people really enjoy it, the ones that I've seen pick it up. That is The International House of Dereliction, and this is by Jacqueline Davies. So this is a not so scary ghost story. So Alice lives with her family in this house on a college campus where her parents work. And across the street from their residence is this dilapidated old house. And Alice's natural curiosity takes her over there, and she encounters ghosts of people that had lived there, and they are trapped. So she is taking upon herself the task of finding out what happened to these people and figuring out how to release them from the house. Now, she has to do this quickly because this house is set for demolition, and if she doesn't release all of the ghosts, they will be forever trapped in basically a purgatory place once the house is demolished, because they are attached to the house. So if the house is no longer standing, they just kind of blip and are forever in this purgatory place. So Alice is on it with research and with fact-finding missions and following clues, and she starts to really bond with these ghosts and really care about their stories. It is very cute. It is somewhat spooky, and it was just a very fun read. Another spooky middle grade that I was able to get the arc for, that is also now published, is What Stays Buried by Suzanne Young. Now, I don't normally say this, but I want an adaptation of this book. I feel like this story, these characters, the atmosphere and setting would translate so well to film. So I'm holding out hope that if I can recommend it enough and enough people read it and enjoy it, that it will eventually get picked up for an adaptation. So we are following 12-year-old Callista, who, as part of her heritage, has the ability to speak to and see the dead. Now, because of a curse that was placed on her family, that ability goes away on the 13th birthday. So she's coming up on her 13th birthday, and unfortunately, by this point, her father has passed away. She hasn't had to grieve him yet because of her ability, but her ability is starting to fade because of this curse, and she is starting to lose access to her dad. While her mom and her sister have already grieved him, Callista hasn't had to, and it's starting to become very real to her that she's going to be losing him forever. Now, while this is happening, Callista is whisked into this scary mystery because her sister is seeing this tall lady around, and there are children going missing in her town. This tall lady is evil and menacing, and Callista just knows that she is behind the missing children. So on top of dealing with her power slipping away and her access to her father slipping away, she's trying to protect her little sister and trying to save these kids that have gone missing. It was so spooky. I was actually scared, but it was so well done, and the generational elements of it were so well done that I cannot recommend this book enough. Next up is The Grace of Wild Things by Heather Fawcett. Yes, the same Heather Fawcett that wrote Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. So, The Grace of Wild Things came out the same year as Emily Wilde. And it is a witchy retelling of Anne of Green Gables. So we are following orphan Grace. So Grace doesn't fit in at the orphanage where she lives, and really the only thing she feels like she's good at is magic. No one wants to adopt her. She keeps getting passed up for other kids. So she decides to take her fate into her own hands, and she runs away from the orphanage to go offer herself as an apprentice to the witch that lives in the woods. Now, the witch is a lot more mean than she was expecting. And basically the witch gives her a deal. Grace can master the 100.5 spells in her spell book by the end of the summer, basically. And if she doesn't master it, the witch is going to take her magic. Now, while Grace is learning and practicing, she is living with the witch, and they start to form a bond. This is a very much like a found family story. It is super whimsical and just an all-around wonderful book. Next up, we have Stargazing by Jen Wang. This is a graphic novel, and it really centers around the Chinese American culture and what it's like for our main characters growing up in and out of that culture. So Christine is the very parents perfect little Chinese American child. She does everything she's supposed to. She focuses on her grades, she focuses on her extracurriculars. And then across the street, this family moves in, and their child, Moon, is basically everything opposite of Christine. She's confident and artistic and a little bit wild, and somehow the girls become really, really good friends. And Christine starts relying on Moon. But then something happens, and Christine has to stop relying on Moon and start gaining the confidence in herself. The friendship in this is beautiful. It is definitely going to tug on your heartstrings, and I love the sort of chibi kind of art style. It's very cutesy, and it's just a really, really impeccably written graphic novel. Next up, of course, I have to recommend this. The Cassidy Blake trilogy, City of Ghosts, Tunnel of Bones, Bridge of Souls by Victoria Schwab, also known as V.E. Schwab. So this is a spooky middle grade trilogy. We're following Cassidy Blake, who had a near-death experience and now has the ability to see ghosts and basically cross over into ghost territory, cross through the veil. And she has the ability to send ghosts to their resting place in the beyond. Her best friend is a ghost, and her parents are paranormal investigators, and they just landed a television show doing that. So they are taking Cassidy along to these different destinations that are super haunted. So like the first one is Edinburgh, then you've got Paris and New Orleans, and oh my gosh, the atmosphere, the imagery, I absolutely loved all of it. There are lots of super legendary haunted places in each of these destinations that these books talk about that I have now put on my travel bucket list. And if you like ghost stories, this is the trilogy for you. And finally, I am going to recommend to you guys The Dark Hills Divide by Patrick Carman. Now, I will not be surprised to find out that none of you have ever heard of this book. This is the first book in the Land of Elion series, and this is one that I picked at random at the Scholastic Book Fair in 2004. I think it was 2004. And I fell in love with the series. So it is a fantasy adventure series. There's some mystery to it, and our main character is Alexa, and she visits the town of Bridewell every year and starts to get curious about different elements in the town, such as the massive ramparts that surround the city. One year, while she is there, the town leader passes away, and Alexa finds herself in possession of a magical stone and figures out that she has to stop a potential war from happening. It is very magical. It is very adventurous. It gives similar Princess Bride vibes as far as like atmosphere and the adventure. And it's a great series for middle grade readers. I will always stand by this series. All right, guys, that's all the middle grade recommendations that I have for you today. Obviously, this is not all of the middle grade books that I have read and loved, but these are the ones that I wanted to highlight for you this year. I hope your middle grade March is going great and you end up picking up some of these books that I have talked about. As always, please give this video a like if you enjoyed it and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I am so excited. I have lots of fun videos planned out for the rest of the year that I don't want you to miss. So with that said, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!